What's going on, FA Nation? John Impemba here with Howard Bender. Welcome to the Fantasy Alarm NFL DFS podcast for Week 11. Howard, man, this season is flying by. Last week we talked about sort of some strategies and change-ups we were going to be making to the slate, some different approaches of how we're going to go about building our lineups. I told you that you couldn't fade Saquon. You told me that you probably could. Your running back section of your playbook was an absolute smash. All the quarterbacks pretty much came through, including Trevor Lawrence, who I was telling you to play. All in all, it was a pretty good week for us over here at Fantasy Alarm.
It really was. And, as soon as Trevor Lawrence went over that 20 DK point threshold, I sent a message to you immediately. I should have just left it at that. But I think that's where I kind of feel like everybody benefited a lot from the way we ran the playbook last week. We said 3 quarterbacks. We can give you a couple of extras here, but 3 quarterbacks is where you want to live, and that was Fields, Tua, and Mahomes. We said that these were the receivers that we wanted in our lineups, but what we did was we kind of broke it down into not just cash and GPP, but pay up versus pay down, and we paired up Amari Cooper with Donovan Peoples-Jones. We paired up Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling or whoever it was. But that's, we kind of lived in that range. And I feel like that was probably a better move for us in the long run. Now, obviously, hitting on every flipping running back. Every running back was hot. It was great. It made me smile. I was just kidding about the whole Barkley thing, only because, listen, do we all know that Aaron Jones and I don't even know who everybody just smashed.
Pollard, Jones.
Yep.
Right. Barkley obviously came through there. That whole 6K range basically of running backs ended up hitting. Jeff Wilson came through with a big performance there. Singletary.
So we got her.
Hit,
that's the thing. Yeah, Singletary with his 2 touchdowns. that was the thing, is that the pay downs hit. We knew Barkley was going to smash. And the question was there a pay down that we could fit, that we could use in order to be able to fit Barkley in and not have to completely crap up our wide receivers? I was dying last week trying to make sure that I was getting in not just a priced up quarterback, but Barkley and Kelsey too. Yeah. I went down at tight end a little as well. I did some Dalton Schultz. I may or may not have splashed some Tyler Higbee in there. I can't remember.
No one will ever know, Howard.
No one will ever know.
Erased from the histories.
But, but I'll tell you what, man, looking at the slate this week, I felt really, really good about how the watch list turned out this week. I even added a couple of extra names. John and I are recording here on Thursday afternoon, just so everybody knows. So some of the news is out, some of the news isn't out, and we'll discuss all that. But, looking ahead at this slate, I felt great about the watch list, but I do feel like we've got some different approaches that we can do here for our lineup construction this week.
Yeah, I agree with you. I did both the quarterback and wide receiver coach this week, Howard. So diving a little bit into some of the additional positionals.
To Colby. Is Colby okay?
Colby's fine. He's out on a work retreat this week. So I stepped in doing the wide receiver coach this week as well, which is fine because I think we've been pretty strong on the wide receiver groupings of late. The low-owned Justin Jefferson last week in lineups was a big win there. Donovan Peoples-Jones, my boy, just coming through again as a value play for us there. So definitely a lot of interesting opportunities here on this week's slate. Again, we're missing out on some of the key names because of sort of the way the primetime games are going. But there's still plenty of options for us here on this slate. So why don't we'll jump into it. The quarterback position. They told us all week that Josh Allen needed Tommy John surgery, and he basically goes out there, throws for 330 yards. The rushing upside was there. He threw a score. He's $8,500, and there's a little bit of a caveat to this play here, right? Because Buffalo is apparently expecting anywhere from 3 to 6 feet of snow, Howard. There's already some reports that they're looking to potentially move this game. The last time Buffalo had a monster snowstorm, that was going to impact the Sunday game, they moved it to Detroit. Detroit is on the road this week, so that availability is potentially in play here. If they move Josh Allen into a dome against Cleveland, and the elbow is fine, I mean, that's probably your top play. I know he's your top price play, and it's very difficult to pair up with Diggs at $8,300 this week. But I mean, that is there's some really nice potential there for Allen, where I think he's also going to go low rostered because Fields is on the slate against Atlanta that everybody's going to be looking to play, and there's some other decent spots for guys below him. So. In cash games, though, I think Josh Allen, if they move this game into Detroit, is a pretty safe play.
If they move the game, yes, I'm totally in on it because I mean, listen, it's a cleaner situation, and and Buffalo loves to throw the ball. It would obviously trash Devin Singletary as a value play,
right,
even though Cleveland's run defense sucks because you put Josh Allen in a dome now. And I'm sorry, that dude's just that. I mean, that dude's running all by himself. And yeah, I mean, listen, no big deal with a naked Josh Allen. You don't have to match him up there with Stephon Diggs. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like we went naked Mahomes last week, and that was beautiful.
Yep. And we've been playing naked Fields for 2 weeks. So, it's been
playing naked Fields for 2 weeks, and we can probably still do that again here against Atlanta. I think that's a good spot. Listen, the funny thing is, as far as the quarterbacks go and paying up, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields. All right, those five right there, or four right there, I mean, I'm perfectly fine using any of those four however you want to do it, naked or paired up with maybe one receiver out of that group. But other than that, man, I mean, I think that paying up at QB is kind of an easy thing to do this week.
Yeah, I'm not as high on Lamar Jackson, but I do get the matchup here. And, if you get Andrews back, I know Duvernay is there for him this week, but, he hasn't really been worthy of the $8,400 in a handful of weeks here. Hurts is interesting because both of his starting receivers are questionable, and he lost his starting tight end. So you talk about a naked Jalen Hurts. One of the reasons why I was high on Hurts this year is because I liked his receiving group around him. But Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown are both questionable. Obviously, Wednesday practice reports, these guys are always questionable. We'll see what happens as the week moves on. Again, recording here on Thursday.
I haven't seen any updates on the Eagles yet. I did see an update on the Chiefs, which is a different story, but nothing on the Eagles.
Right. So, I mean, if those guys get ruled out, you're looking at a Quez Watkins as your wide receiver one, potentially for Jalen. Not against
He's fast, dude. He's fast.
He's very fast. But, Colts on the road, that could be a tough spot for them there. Fields is your go-to for sure. But outside of Fields and Allen, honestly, I'm looking down a little bit cheaper. I mean, I like Dak Prescott this week against Minnesota. I don't mind Cousins on the other side. I know Dallas's pass defense, their pass rush rather, is elite, so that could certainly cause some problems there. But I kind of like stacking this game from either side of it. I think you can go Prescott with Schultz and Lamb. I think you can go Cousins with Hawkinson and Jefferson if you want to. In this mid-tier range, I think Cousins and Prescott are certainly guys that I'm looking at.
Yeah, I mean, the game needs to pop also. Ezekiel Elliott did return to practice today, and that always, every time you deal with Zeke Elliott on the field, he's going to get those goal line touches. He's going to get the enough work to be, enough work to kill the Tony Pollard value and enough work to kind of gum things up inside the red zone there. Little bit. So, but I mean, I get it. I just added Dak Prescott before I saw the news that Zeke practiced today. I cited you and the quarterback coach in the watch list update talking about Dak Prescott, and I agree with you, man. And to pair him up with CeeDee Lamb, I know you want to stack, but even if you're just talking about a cash lineup and you want to pair them, Prescott and Lamb, I think, are a really nice tandem.
Yeah. So again, we've seen Minnesota's pass defense struggle. They're at home, so you're in another dome, so good environment for that situation. And then, like I said, just with Cousins, I mean, adding TJ Hawkinson has done, I really think, just adds another layer to what that passing offense can be, because he's just more of a pure pass catcher. I think he's a better pass catcher than KJ Osborne, obviously, and he's been better than Irv Smith. He's been getting the target share. Jefferson, apparently you just got to throw the ball to Jefferson, and he'll figure a way to come down with it. I mean...
Anyway, remember, they did that, there was an old... I mean, the whole like the map of the picture of the man who's like his arms are straight out.
Yeah.
There's the circle around it, and they talk about all the angles and stuff like that. They did one of those way back when for Calvin Johnson, right? And showing what his wingspan was and his like his vertical leap and all that stuff. You could do one of those for Jefferson, and it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, again, I think both of those games are fine for the mid tier. I want to say that I could consider playing Russell Wilson again.
Nope.
But I know last week I said it was the last opportunity to do so, and he again did not come through for us. Sorta, right?
Dude,
like 15 fantasy
16
points.
16 to 10. 16 to 10. That's going to be the final score.
But I mean, the Raiders are so bad. That defense is so bad. The problem is, doing the wide receiver coach today, I realized that every wide receiver except for Cortland Sutton is hurt. KJ Hamler, they're going to say is going to be missing at least another 2 weeks. Kendall Hinton didn't practice. Jerry Jeudy didn't practice. So it's Sutton, and then it's the guy who caught the 60-yard touchdown last week, Virgil. That's their 2 wide receivers. They had another guy, Cleveland, and they waived him yesterday or 2 days ago. So like they're gonna have to call.
Maybe this is the big breakout game for Dulcich.
So that's what I'm thinking, right? Like Dulcich has to get target share because I don't know who else they're gonna throw to. I also probably to spite my own self here. We've talked about Raiders and pass catching running backs. They just didn't use Chase Edmonds last week, but like if you don't have any receivers, do you use Chase Edmonds more this week, right? Like, I don't know. I'm not saying play Chase Edmonds in DFS, but like for a potential plus side for Wilson, if Edmonds is on the field more and utilizing his pass catching ability. So again, $5,800, nobody is playing Russell Wilson. 0%.
Russell Wilson.
So if you're playing multiple lineups, I'm okay with going with Russell Wilson in a lineup. He's not a core play. But if you want to go Sutton with Wilson or Dolchik with Wilson against Las Vegas, because the Raiders have really struggled against tight ends as well this year, I think there's a path to it. They've just been so bad. And Denver's also very bad. But I just think at some point they're going to have a game where they break out. Daniel Jones is also kind of interesting, but this is going to be another Barkley week, I think, against Detroit. But Darius Slayton is really starting to pop lately. They could get Bellinger back. They have Wandale. So there's also the Kenny Golladay revenge narrative. Supposedly he was on the field last week. Nobody saw him do anything, but they said he was out there. So that 5K range, those are the 2 for me.
I actually do like Daniel Jones a lot, and in this matchup, and yeah, obviously, Saquon Barkley rushing against Detroit is definitely a tasty thing. But I don't know, man. I wasn't even thinking about the Kenny Golladay narrative. Wandale Robinson did not practice on Thursday. It's something we're going to have to watch. But for me, it's about it's about Aiden Hutchinson. It's about Detroit being the team that blitzes the second most in the NFL. It's about Daniel Jones's rushing abilities for me.
Sure.
I think that's going to be something that's going to be very much in play here. I have Daniel Jones in the watch list because I kind of like him as that pay down cash game QB because he will run with the football. Because he does have a pass-catching running back in Saquon Barkley. He's got the rapport with Darius Slayton.
Yep.
They could be getting back Daniel Bellinger this week, which would be really big for him. Bellinger was a big red zone target guy. So, listen, if I'm paying down, I'll drop to the 5,700 and go with Daniel Jones way, way, way before I go with Russell Wilson.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Again, not they're both home. Decent matchup for both teams. Jones, definitely the running upside is there. Any thoughts on Mariota at 55 against Chicago?
A little bit. He's in that watch list. Again, here's a quarterback who can run. Chicago doesn't have that pass rush. That's the disappointing side for that. And I don't know how much Mariota is going to get flushed out of the pocket and try and take off on his own. But mobile QB against a horrible run defense. I think the big problem is that Arthur Smith just loves to run too much. And now he's like, I've got Patterson and I've got Algier and I've got Caleb Huntley.
Yeah.
So I could just run the ball 35 to 40 times a game with these three. And again, Mariota's not really passing that much. It's a great spot for him against Chicago. I just don't know what we're going to see out of it.
Sure. Any other quarterbacks for you?
No, trash, garbage.
Yep, I got nothing either.
Horrifying.
Yep, no, nothing for me either. Running backs.
Makes me sad.
Barkley, as we know, is at the top. Nick Chubb. We talked about running backs against Buffalo last week. Yep. They continue to do well. Dalvin Cook had a good week. Michael Carter had a good week before that. And Aaron Jones did a good week before that. Now Buffalo's going to have to deal with Chubb. If it's going to be a snow game, great for Chubb. If it's going to be in a dome, great for Chubb. I'm fine with Nick Chubb all around here at $80 to $100. Where are you going after that top two, though? What's your next move?
I do actually like Dalvin Cook against Dallas. If you watched the game and you watched how Green Bay did it with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, they ran right at Dallas. And Dallas is extremely vulnerable that way. The Eagles were too. We saw Washington do that. Eagles go out now, and I think they just signed Ndamukong Suh.
They did, yeah.
Just plant that fat fuck in the middle of that defensive line. And I mean, go ahead, run it up the middle. Try it. It's unbelievable. The rich get richer. So I really like Dalvin Cook in this matchup this week. I'm fine with that. And then I'll skip out on Jonathan Taylor. I think that the Colts come back to major reality this week.
Flash in the pan last week against the Raiders.
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, you fire the coach. Everybody's all in on it. Jeff Saturday's helping the offensive line in the ground game. Everybody's feeling good. But again,
and you face the Raiders.
You're playing the Raiders.
Yeah. Perfect storm. Happy for them. Eagles are going to be pissed, and they're gonna just trounce, I think, here.
Yeah, for sure. Where am I looking? It's kind of funny. I mean, I'm moving down. I mean, I know Josh Jacobs ran all over Denver the last time they played each other.
Yeah.
Like, he destroyed them. So I think a lot of people are going to be looking at that.
Did people forget about Joe Mixon because they had the bye week, do you think?
I don't know if people forget about Joe Mixon. I also don't love this matchup against Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I mean, listen, I fucking love Joe Mixon. I'll love him every day, all day, every day. But, like, it's kind of funny. If I want Nick Chubb or Dalvin Cook or even Saquon Barkley in my lineup, I have to look at the pay downs. It's like the mid-tier backs kind of don't really do it for me in the mid-price, that is. Yeah. And that's like that, low 7K
I think
range.
Ramondre will be chalky. He was very highly rostered against the Jets 2 weeks ago. Or 3 weeks ago it was. And he, 16 for 71, 7 catches for 72 yards. He didn't even score in that game, but we know the touchdown potential that he brings. I mean, he had 4 straight 20-plus fantasy point games going into that last game against the Colts. So I think a lot of people will be looking at a Belichick team at home, out of a bye, against a Jets team that he knows how to beat, and Stevenson just being that guy in the mid-tier that they look to.
Yeah, I can definitely concur with that statement. Cordarrelle Patterson and David Montgomery. Mm-hmm. I think we're looking at those two guys also being highly owned. It's a great spot for each of them.
Yeah, I wonder if Patterson gets lower roster this week because everybody is scared about what happened in Carolina, not really remembering that it was torrential downpours in that game, and there was probably a reasoning with Patterson just coming back from the injury that they went with Algier more in that game. But I'm curious to see what the rostership ends up being on Patterson because of that there. Because since he's come back, he has been in a timeshare in terms of snap counts there with Algier. So certainly something to watch. But Montgomery with no Herbert, I agree, at 61. I do like that. If Jamal Williams doesn't play against the Giants, it didn't practice with an illness, do they give more to Swift or do we get a Craig Reynolds workload instead?
I think you'll get a little bit more from Swift, but yeah, we'll see Reynolds, Justin Jackson.
Yeah.
Another moronic name.
We were not wrong on Jamal Williams last week. He scored a touchdown. He had the potential to score 3 because he threw a 1-yard touchdown to Brock Wright and they gave a goal line carry to DeAndre Swift. All season long, those have been Jamal Williams touches, and then they just went against us. And then he got his touchdown in the goal line later in that game. So 7% rostership on Jamal Williams last week for us really could have been huge if he would have gotten the work like he had traditionally been getting this year. Can't count on a Brock Wright 1-yarder every week, I don't think. So if he's healthy, would you go back to Williams at all, or are you just worried about Swift slowly building up more and more?
No, I just, I mean, the Giants give up a lot of yardage to running backs. They don't give up a lot of touchdowns, a lot of rushing touchdowns, which is something that you kind of have to take a look at. Again, I don't mind I like the price tag. I would, for 6,100, I'd rather go with David Montgomery. For 6,200, I'd rather go with Patterson than to go with either Detroit running back. And then if you want to look further down on the other side of that, we'll see what happens with Gus Edwards. That puts Kenyon Drake possibly in play.
Yeah.
I do like Devin Singletary if the game does not take place in Detroit and they play it in Buffalo in shitty weather.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in on that. And then I'm wondering, this is the $1 million question, John. This is the difference between winning the Millie Maker and
Which
not winning
commander's
the
back,
Millie Maker.
right?
What's that?
Which commander's back?
Not just, do these commanders' backs, because I think both of them have the capability of eating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Houston's that bad. But remember several weeks ago when we were like, Houston's run defense sucks, blah, blah, blah. And we went with both ETN and James Robinson. Not here in like DFS, but we were like all in. I mean, we've used them in DFS, but we were like all in on these guys going up against Houston. So the question that I have is Gibson and Robinson the new Robinson and ETN, or are these guys worth doing? Because so far right now, I'm kind of leaning towards Gibson with the pass catching.
Yeah, so the one thing with that game, of course, was the fact that everybody thought Jackson was going to go in and blow doors, and they didn't, right? They just struggled, just in general in that game. So the flow for Robinson wasn't there, and they had to use ETN in that game. ETN ended up, I think, still with like 12 fantasy points, 13 fantasy points in that game, and that was actually the beginning of the end for James Robinson. From that point on, ETN was the lead running back in that offense.
Right. Oh, yeah. That was the end of James Robinson.
Yeah, that from that point on, ETN was the number one running back in Jacksonville. I've leaned Robinson because he's getting 25 carries, right? Like, he's at least going to get the volume here, and Houston is bad enough to where, and I've talked to you about this with Robinson when you put him in lineups, he's not very good from a yardage per carry perspective, right? Like,
no, he's not. He yards after contact are like, I don't know, 1.2.
Yeah, but he gets so many carries. Like, he's got 17, 20, and 26 in 3 of the last 5 games where they've been ahead, right? So when they're ahead, they are pounding the football with Brian Robinson. Houston gives up chunk yardage to these guys. So, like, Brian Robinson could break off a 15-yarder against Houston just being a power back. What does Derrick Henry do? Now, Derrick Henry's obviously an elite guy, but, like, power back breaking through Houston. Josh Jacobs kind of a power back just busting through Houston here. Robinson's a power back. He can just throw some strength behind that and break through that line, that secondary, that linebacker group, and make some big plays. I think both are playable. If I'm picking one for cash games, Robinson's probably in there. Gibson's definitely more of a GPP guy for me. But even then, for a spend down, I think there's a safe floor at Robinson this week because I do think he scores. I think they're going to get in the red zone and Robinson's just going to get in there. That run defense is that bad.
So you're in on Brian Robinson then?
Yeah, again, I haven't ever liked playing him this year.
No, I know. Listen, dude, I remember when I was like, man, I fucking hate Eric Ebron. He's the worst tight end in the history of tight ends. And then, like, week 2 of DFS one year, I was like, we're all in on Eric Ebron.
Yeah, this
about the matchup.
This is the Arizona Cardinals matchup from like 3 years ago where they just gave up touchdowns to every tight end. It didn't matter who the tight end was, right? You just had to play the tight end against Arizona that year, or there's like the Giants the year before that. You just play the starting running back against Houston. They're not going to zero you pretty much. So unless you're, of course, James Robinson, which they have the same last name. Is that an omen? Robinson. Is that an omen, Howard? They have the same last name, James Robinson, Brian Robinson.
That's listen, man. I'm not gonna lie. It crossed my mind.
Right? Like
it crossed my mind. It made me a little nervous. I was scared.
But I got nothing else after that. I'm not doing Henderson against the Saints. I don't, again, like maybe like Algier, maybe if you want to be different. I mean, outside again, that Carolina game was just a rough game for them altogether, but
right.
He's still at 10 for 99 against the Chargers. I mean, they are using him. So I get nothing else. I don't like anything else here.
Oh, yeah. All right, let's move on then. I don't think there's nothing else at running back that we're gonna like dive in super deep on.
Not unless like news breaks. That's about
right.
All right, wide receiver. Jefferson and Adams are both questionable. Both of the top 2 price guys. Love Jefferson. He's the cover of the wide receiver coach this week again. I'm not worried about Trayvon Diggs. We talk about it every week. What does he do? He gives up big plays. Sure, he'll get his. He always gets his. He'll make a great play on Jefferson at some point, and you'll be like, oh man, like great play by Diggs. And then Jefferson's going to get 2 70-yard catches against him because like Jefferson's that guy. So this will be a fun matchup to watch. I expect Jefferson still to play well. $9,100 is super expensive. We've talked about wanting to pay up at running back for some of these guys. So you're going to figure out a way to fit him in your lineup this week, but he's definitely the number 1 guy for me. And then if they move Diggs inside, Diggs against Cleveland, I'm good there at 83.
Oh yeah. If they move it inside, yeah, I mean it's definitely it's tough. There's I mean getting these guys price wise in there. I mean it's I
wrote up like 6 guys in the 6 to 5K range. So there's spots for plays this week in that mid range at wide receiver.
No doubt. All right, so let's cruise through wide receivers here. So yes, we love Jefferson, we love Diggs.
Yep.
I think CeeDee Lamb is obviously a major play here.
Yep.
I
didn't write up another guy in the next 10, basically.
You did not write up another guy.
Nope.
So no Amon-Ra, no T. Higgins, no Olave. I'm cool with that. Cool with that. No Boyd.
Nope.
Fine. No Cooper. Fine. No Gabe. Yeah. Okay. I hear you. So let's see. The next guy that you threw down there, I mean, please tell me it was Terry McLaurin.
McLaurin was one of them. I also wrote up Cortland Sutton because he had 11 targets last week, and he's the only healthy wide receiver in that offense.
So gross.
Well,
so gross.
Listen, I agree with you, but he had 13 fantasy points.
16 to 10. That's what this game is. 16 to 10.
That's fine. He's going to get 15 targets, Howard. So 6K Cortland Sutton, $5,900 Terry McLaurin, yes. As long as Heineke continues to be the quarterback. Did Rivera come out and name him yet? I know Wentz was like throwing and eligible to return.
I don't know, but the day he goes to Wentz is the day I stop using Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, you play Samuel. You just play Samuel once Wentz comes back. Yeah. But Heineke and McLaurin are peanut butter and jelly. So both of them are great plays there at that point there. Allen Robinson with no Cooper Kupp. I mean, you gotta consider him. You have to consider him there. Stafford is gonna be back this week.
I'd rather go Van Jefferson.
Listen, Van Jefferson, Ben Skoranek, both cheaper, but Allen Robinson at least has been on the field more this year than those 2 guys, and being
he's all yours.
Being somewhat productive.
Yours.
Listen, you're taking away a guy in Cooper Kupp who's getting 15 targets.
Full fade.
I don't know. I don't think you can. I think
it's no separation. None.
Who's in the New Orleans secondary that he has to worry about?
It doesn't matter.
Nobody there. Jacoby Myers.
And he's a nobody.
Jacoby Myers at 5,500. I like him. He scored against your Jets the last time they played. Number 1 receiver in New England. Good floor cash game guy. But if he scores, he can he's safe for GBPs. Darnell Mooney again.
Yes, 100%.
Gonna play him at 54. Put him in your lineups for sure. Pickens is interesting. I know he's your guy. I didn't write him up, but again, he's scoring, right? And this.
Well, I mean, he got a handoff. He got a 1 yard.
That counts. You don't take that away from him if they're going to.
I'm not taking it away from him, but that's not something that you can rely on too much. And listen, I don't think that Cincinnati's cover corners are great, and I don't mind using it. I just think that we're kind of in a spot now where Kenny Pickett is looking like he's not. There's no consistency from him yet. I haven't seen the game-to-game growth. So I'm just, yeah. I mean, I don't mind it, but it's not number one on my list.
So my thoughts on the Pickens carry there was that it was their first game since Claypool was traded. And Claypool was the guy that generally got those types of plays. So if Pickens got 2 carries there, he could be the one that fills in for the Claypool role in those running situations. So
yeah.
That was
I like the player. I'll use him in season long, all day long. I have to think about it as far as like DFS, just because even at this price, there are a lot of there's to me there's a lot of value at wide receiver.
Yep, there is. So Cook said 54. I also think is considered in there, 7 targets, assuming he's good to go. They keep telling us Gallup's going to get more involved. He did have 7 targets in that game. If you want to throw a GPP dart, we know he's a big play receiver. Darius Slayton was the guy that I wrote up. Again, just a connection there with Daniel Jones. Garrett Wilson's been looking good. Again, tough spot for a Belichick defense out of a bye. Zach Wilson has kind of never done well against New England, but Garrett Wilson did. He had over 100 yards against him in that game. So put some potential there. Donovan Peoples-Jones, if they move it inside into a dome, I like that against Buffalo's defense there. And then Van Jefferson, as you mentioned, at 45. So again, I skipped most of that 6K tier because under 6K, there's like 8 guys I think you can play. So
yeah. There really are. What about let's just kind of looking at some darts here. Did you say Jahan Dotson on his comeback?
I didn't, because he didn't play enough. He only played like 40% of the snaps, and again, that was a Wentz guy, so I don't know what Heineke and him have a connection since he's been out basically this whole time. So I kind of faded, but he's could be a GBP option for you for sure. Could get a bounce back from Mac Hollins after doing nothing last week to the final drive.
That just depends. If his hair is braided, then I'm out. But if his hair is frizzed out and loose, that's when he balls. I'm telling you. Go back and look at his game log and look at photos of him from each game where he did well.
Okay. Got to look for narratives everywhere. I threw Devontae Parker in the playbook. I know the wide receiver coach. I know you hate him.
That's just gross. Did you throw Damiere Byrd in there as a dart throw against Chicago?
I did not throw Damiere Byrd in there.
Oh, see?
I don't really look at the passing offense for the Falcons.
But you'll throw Devontae piece of shit Parker in there.
Well, I do that because of production, Howard. He's been playing well. So outside of the injury.
He's been playing so well lately.
He's always hurt.
That's why he's on the top of everybody's list.
Always hurt. 4,100 though. I don't mind it. Skoronix at 39.
For 4,100, I'd rather have Nico Collins.
Maybe.
Oh, the dude saw 10 targets last week, dude.
Yeah, I'm aware.
10. Are you?
Yeah.
And you'd still rather have Parker than Collins?
This feels like a good
in a better matchup.
Well, Chase Young's back. Like, what's that pass rush gonna be like for Washington? Against Houston, is that going to disrupt their passing offense? Worry a little bit there, but sure, if you want to go in that direction,
we might be in a fight, you and me.
Skoranek at 39.
Yeah, okay, fine. Skoranek at 39.
If any of those guys are out for, obviously the Eagles, we've mentioned Quez Watkins, but Zach Pascal could also be a dart throw at 3,500.
Zach Pascal could be an interesting dart throw. If those guys are out, yes, Zach Pascal definitely comes into play because I think a lot more of the attention will fall onto Quez Watkins. Zach Pascal always he did that in Indianapolis. He always kind of had these like random decent games.
Mm-hmm. And then Virgil's at 32.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he can go sit with Dulcich.
Tight end.
Speaking of which, let's go to the tight end position, shall we?
Andrews is at 68. We'll see if he plays.
Andrews is at 68. We will see if he plays. He did not practice again today.
I know. Yeah, as much as you hate TJ Hawkinson, you have to at least give him some flowers here, right? New situation. 19 targets, 16 catches in his 2 games with the Vikings. Do you think he's worth the 53 now?
No.
All right. I know you're such a hater, but that's fine.
You know what it is? If I'm going to pay up at tight end, then I want more. I want a better guarantee. I want a better tight end.
What's a better guarantee than almost 20 targets in the 2 weeks he's been in the offense?
Because I don't know if that's going to last this time around.
But why not? He's given it in 2 weeks that he's been with the team. They've targeted him 9 in 10 times. They're not going to just stop throwing to him.
I'm skeptical, John.
I'm telling you, the biggest difference for TJ Hawkinson in this offense is the fact that they're playing him out of the slot now. They didn't play him out of the slot when he was in Detroit. They spread him out wide. Irv Smith played out of the slot for Minnesota, and Hawkinson's now lining up in the slot in Minnesota, and that's just a much better matchup spot for him, in my opinion. So I like it at 53. I told you on this podcast last week to play Dalton Schultz.
You did, and I did.
You did, and you did. Play him again. He's a little bit more expensive, but it's fine because he was underpriced before that. He's probably where he should be, 43, 45 in that range. Another 8 targets, 15 targets the last 2 weeks. Him and Dak Prescott, man, they're in sync. So really love Dalton Schultz here again. Cole Kmet, I mean, just keeps finding the end zone. Didn't practice on Wednesday, I guess, to a thigh, but I imagine he'll be good enough to go here. 5 scores in 3 weeks for Cole Kmet. Teams just can't sit anymore and shadow these guys, right? They're worried about the run for Fields, and Kmet's finding space. So I don't mind it. Big price bump. Big price bump. I mean, but
well, you had to expect the price bump there, but I mean, listen, I think this is probably the last week that you can use these guys and feel really confident about it, because if you look at Chicago's schedule beyond this game, it tightens up a lot. Yeah. I mean, it was the Eagles, Buffalo, Jets have a good pass defense. There's definitely a cap coming on this Bears offense right now, so get it in while you can.
Yep. Higbee, I guess.
There it is. Say it. Go ahead. Say his name,
Maybe.
John.
But was it because Wolford was the quarterback though? Like,
it was a combination of Wolford being the quarterback, but also Cooper Kupp was banged up. He didn't leave the game in the fourth quarter at the end of the game.
Sure.
So, and Matthew Stafford already has good, solid connections with Tyler Higbee. Yeah, that's why when you started talking Allen Robinson, I'm like, I think Van Jefferson gets targets. I think Higbee gets a bump in targets here as well.
Yeah. I need to consult with Andrew Cooper on this one to see if anything changed with Higbee's pass blocking, because that was the reason that we were off of him and his production had just died the last 3 weeks, was that they were keeping him into pass block on passing plays. They weren't having him run routes. And it showed in the numbers. Last week, though, maybe they had him out there running a bit more routes, especially maybe once Kupp went down. But, good week for Higbee at 4K. Dolchik, again, willing to run back there. 4 targets. One of them, he was wide open for like a 50-yard touchdown, and Wilson just overthrew him. Las Vegas, one of the worst teams against tight ends, can run it back. Foster Moreau, you can play him. Isaiah Likely against Carolina, if there's no Andrews, Likely had just a 1 catch, but he had the touchdown, was targeted 5 times.
I think we overlooked Foster Moreau here just for a second, because I actually really like Foster Moreau, and I think that a lot of people are kind of not recognizing something that we actually identified early on in the season, and then we just kind of backed away from it for a little while, and that is the tight end against Denver. Last week, Austin Hooper had himself a good, solid game, and they never throw to freaking Austin Hooper there. The week before that, Evan Engram had 4 for 55 with a touchdown against the Denver Broncos in that loss. We've seen it a couple of times here where teams are definitely going to the tight end. And if you're thinking about the fact that Patrick Surtain is going to be all over Devontae Adams, sure, Mac Hollins could be the guy. I feel like Foster Moreau might be an unheralded, low budget tight end this week.
Yeah, my problem with Moreau is just the price bump on him, really, because $3,700 now. It's just.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same price as all the rest of the shit tight ends out there.
Yeah. Potentially.
I mean, Tyler Conklin's 3,400, and that dude had 72 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Patriots a couple of weeks ago.
I think I'd play Hayden Hurst at 35.
I would play Hayden Hurst at 35, especially with Jamar Chase out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I would go there.
I would do that. I kind of don't mind Dawson Knox if they stay outside.
Yeah. If they stay outside, I mean, I think probably he's a tournament play. I think regardless, because he comes up with some plays. Um, I don't
Bellinger,
know.
if he plays, is going to be a good,
Yeah,
solid red zone target.
yeah. Let's see here. Brian caught a touchdown last week. Not going to really run back against Buffalo. Juwan Johnson caught another touchdown. Any
Mm-hmm.
interest? 31 against the Rams.
Yeah, I mean some.
Okay.
I don't hate it.
I don't have anything else though. That's probably it. Unless unless news breaks.
Yeah, I don't see anything for the back end of the tight end position at all either.
Nope.
So
All right, defense here. Again, I like the Commanders at 31, as with Chase coming back, Chase Young.
mm-hmm.
Just changes, I think, the way they kind of handle their defense there. The Patriots against the Jets. Sorry, Howard, but Zach Wilson throws like 45 interceptions whenever
No
he
sorry
faces.
necessary. Listen, Ravens at the top, yes. Patriots number 2, yes. Eagles, yes.
Sure.
I agree with you on the Commanders as well. I think that's a big yes. And then, John, then I pay all the way down, and I go down to $2,300,
Pittsburgh.
and I take those Steelers against Joe Burrow's turnovers, sacks, all the other nonsense that happens there with the Bengals.
Yeah, TJ Watt changes the way that defense plays. So
Yep.
definitely an interesting spot there for sure. Obviously, if the game stays in Buffalo and there's a blizzard, like you could probably go the Cleveland Browns at 23 as well. Just thinking that game is
Yeah.
15, 17 points, maybe a lot of total there. But that's probably it. I don't think I'd go anywhere else.
I don't think I would either.
All right, what's your lineup, Howard? You got one?
Yeah. So here you go. I'm going to use Daniel Jones as a pay down QB.
Okay.
Now I've got 400 left over from this lineup, so there is some flexibility in this where I could go a couple of different ways. But for what I have for right now, because I can manipulate one or two players here
Sure.
and just move up to Kirk Cousins, because I know you're more in on Cousins than you are on Jones.
I mean, I like them both. I wrote them both up. But all right, what do we got for running backs?
Nick Chubb, Cordell Patterson.
Okay.
My wide receivers are CeeDee Lamb, Darnell Mooney, and Darius Slayton. Tyler Higbee at tight end, Brian Robinson in the flex, and the Steelers D.
Not bad. All right, so Steelers D. Let's see, Robinson, Higbee as your tight end, huh? Interesting. And then who's
I think I threw Higbee in there more to just kind of needle you a little bit more.
Yeah, Slayton there. I was gonna say because you had Dalton Schultz there at 43, man. You can run him out.
I do. I can put Dalton Schultz there. Do I want Dalton Schultz and CeeDee Lamb in this delicious cash lineup?
Yeah. I mean, I think they're both fine, honestly, in the matchup. So.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah, that's not bad. I like that lineup. I do. Again, the only question I have really is Cordell Patterson.
Sure. But if I don't go with Cordell Patterson, I could pay $100 less and take David Montgomery.
Yeah, Monty's decent.
Or Swift. I could go.
Are you sold on the 3 running backs?
What's that?
Are you sold on the 3 running backs?
No, I could turn around. I could just throw. Like I said, I've got all of this flexibility in this lineup, which I dig. I could throw Brian Robinson up as a running back, and that would leave me 6,600 for a wide receiver. And that floats me into a couple of different spots. I mean, I wish it could get me a little bit more, but
well, I was thinking you could probably upgrade your defense. You can move.
I can do that.
Move up from Daniel Jones. I know you like him, but just throwing some different combinations out there at you. You know.
I told you, man. This what I like about this lineup is there's a lot of flexibility here.
No arguments. I don't mind that actually. What you have there, I went to kind of just doing a small pivot. Daniel Jones, Nick Chubb, Ramondre Stevenson, CeeDee Lamb, Darnell Mooney, Darius Slayton, Dolchik, Robinson, and the Steelers D.
Oh yeah, okay.
Just going from Dolchik down from Higbee, and then going up to Stevenson at running back. So,
what if we? I kind of like that. What if we did this at tight end? Where's Dulcich? He's 38. 38. Okay. What if I went to Moreau? Does that give me a decent running back? Miles Sanders or Ramondre Stevenson? Yeah, that's about it. Okay.
Yeah.
Dude, this is gonna be a fun one.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, again, if you're stacking, you can certainly do different kind of rebuild your lineups in different ways. But I definitely think that there's some potential lineup combinations to be had out there. So that is our example lineup. Again, we'll have all of the content out, playbook and dartboard on Saturday rather. Example lineups on Sunday. Live stream. You can find myself and the returning Andrew Cooper this weekend on the Better Sports Network, and then Howard and Fensty on XM from 7 to 9. So we'll have you all day coverage, all weekend coverage here for the NFL DFS Week 11 slate. Guys, we'll catch you later. Good luck.